Here's to episode 1. Hopefully, we are coherent.
Skull.
Skull. What we want to do with this episode is introduce you to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we should probably start with that.
Yes.
Yes. So Alyssa, why don't you introduce yourself? I'll throw you out there first.
My name is Alyssa. So a couple things that we want to talk about with who we are as far as our practice goes. What we do, what we're into, our kind of go-to type of things.
Right.
So me personally, I've been a solitary practitioner for many years, and I've always worked in quite a solitary manner. My habit is the hermit. That is my soul. So with this, I really want to start to kind of branch out and, get into that community aspect and understanding that I can still have my practice that's very personal to me, but how valuable it is to share what we all do with each other. Hearthcraft. Can't talk already.
It's fine.
Hearthcraft is something that's very important to me, so a lot of the magical practice that I do is centered around my home and making it a very sacred space and just really paying attention to the way that I do things in my everyday life and putting intention behind even simple things like cleaning the house or doing the dishes or baking something. What are things that we can very much get into the process of the mundane and not see the magic in those little things. So yeah, tell me about you and your practice.
I'll tell you about me. So I'm Tori. I really, for me, very similar to Alyssa. So a little background on that too. Alyssa and I have been friends for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. We both have been walking this path for longer than that. Mm-hmm. And we only recently started talking about our own practice with each other, which to me was a huge signal that I may be being too solitary in my practice, kind of walling myself off a little bit. And a lot of that is like due to imposter syndrome for me. I know a lot of people, I've talked to people about that. You feel like you're not good enough to do the work, so you don't want to talk about the work. And for me, I really want to start talking about the work. I want to start talking about what I do in my practice. I want to learn from other people what they do in their practice. What I'm really strong in and what I believe I'm strong in. I've been doing a lot of shadow work. So I've been spending a lot of time really digging in myself, really figuring out what makes me tick and trying to basically get that shadow voice to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, bitch.
Yeah, bitch. Also very much into herbal work, always been drawn to herbs, in a very intuitive way, not in a I know what this is and I know what it does, just I feel like I should work with this. So now I'll be starting more work in what is this? Why am I drawn to it? And that's something that we're really going to try and dig in on later on as well, is digging in more on what herbs are, what herbs do, why you're drawn to it. I'm also very much into intentional practice in my own home. I like my space. I am a little bit of a hermit. Mm-hmm. I like to kind of cocoon myself away in my home. Through this, I'm trying to push myself out, but because that's who I am as a person, I spend a lot of time in my home. I spend a lot of time making sure that my home feels like a safe space for me, and that's with witchcraft, that's with other stuff that we're going to talk about later. So that's what I'm really drawn to. That's what my practice has been for a very long time, and kind of what my practice is growing into here recently. Do you want to talk about deities?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell us who your deity is, Alyssa.
My deity that I work with the most is Freya. I've felt some recent connections and kind of pulls to Geirfinn. Mm-hmm. And Frigg as well. Both of those are very connected to the land, which is very important to me. I grow everything that I can in the tiniest space that I have available, but land spirits, making that connection is very important to me. So that's main central focus, but I very much believe in being able to work with multiple deities. Like,
Yes.
I very much am not attached to, like, you have to practice with this one person.
Right.
I think that there's deities that are these big deities that we very much build these relationships with, but when
Right.
it comes to, like, our daily practice and our daily work, there's, you know, your house spirits, the
Yeah.
energy that lives in the hearth and in the home. There's land spirits, there's, you know, it could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
So for me, I'm a follower of the Morrigan. I can give a little bit of background of like before I was called by the Morrigan. Whenever I first started as a little witchling, like super, super young when I was like 15. And I never was super drawn to any deity. I always was trying to find someone that I felt like wanted to work with me, and I never really felt a strong connection. So I kind of was just kind of wandering on the path for a while. About 10 years ago, I would say, I started trying to work with Hecate. My husband has got a very strong relationship, and you know what he talked about with his experience with her was drastically different than what I was experiencing, right? To me, it felt like I was trying so hard to connect with this deity, and I was connecting, but not really connecting. And I would say probably about 5 years ago, I got a very, very strong call from the Morrigan, and I've been working with her ever since. The Morrigan is, I'm gonna like cry talking about her because I fucking love her so much. She's amazing. She's definitely a hard goddess to work with. But for me, she's exactly what I need in my life, and that's why I was called to her. Because I have been doing so much shadow work, I've been doing a lot of internal battle with myself, and so she called me at the time I needed her, and I need her now more than ever. So we've really been working, I've been working on that relationship, and really strengthening those bonds with her, and you know, letting her influence my practice in a way that I'm getting a lot out of. Also, very similar to you, definitely believe in land spirits, connecting with the spirits of your land, connecting with the spirits of your house. Obviously, being a follower of the Morrigan, fairies are a big thing for me. So there's just I mean, there's a lot going on. But, you know, for me, the Morrigan has been exactly what I've needed. What I've needed.
It's interesting you say you're talking about your path before, you know, and similar experience, but for me, I felt like I never really needed to work with a deity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it took me a long time to be like, maybe it's commitment issues. It's probably commitment issues.
Probably.
But for a long time, it was like this almost absent part of my practice that it's like, I still very much believe that my will and my power comes from me, you know?
Yeah.
It comes from me internally, but being able to make that connection to something else and start a working relationship and learn from as like a mentor and a teacher, you know, is a beautiful thing. So it's
like fleshed out your practice a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I would say I was very similar as well. Obviously, when I was 15, I was really just dabbling. I knew then that I was a pagan and that I was a witch.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to really, for me to figure out what that meant for me.
Yeah.
And when I first started again about 10 years ago, really trying to flesh out what I was doing and what I believed in, you know, when I was working with Hecate, it felt kind of like a farce. Like, it felt like she was just, you know, she was just kind of leading me along, you know what I mean? And she was leading me to the Morrigan, because that's when the Morrigan reached out to me. And it was a very different connection. So it was almost like Hecate was trying to take me where I needed to go.
Be like, oh, that's sweet. Yeah. Let me show you my friend.
Let me just go ahead. Just over here. There she is.
Yeah.
But ever since starting to really work with her more and more, it has fleshed everything out for me, and it's amazing. What you need is what you don't think you need.
Yeah.
Right? And the more you learn about the people that you're working with, the goddesses that you're working with, the spirits that you're working with, the more you realize, oh, so this does make sense. Like, this is like a real thing, because this is exactly what I needed in this point in my life.
And it makes you question everything.
It makes you question fucking everything. Yeah. It's insane.
I know very much, like, in my practice, it's funny because the more that I start to feel like a witchling again, the more that I get excited, you know?
Absolutely.
It's like having somebody there to work with that's saying, oh no, You think you've got it figured out?
But you don't.
Here is the next layer of the onion. May I present you with this new challenge? You know, is it's important to have.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel like you know what you're doing.
And it's
at all
important.
times.
It's important to have a fresh aspect
Yeah.
to your practice too. Like, I think that's important for any part of life. Is to have that fresh air being brought back in, because then it livens everything up. You never want to feel stale in any section of your life, but especially in your spirituality, you want to feel that fresh, energized, excited feeling.
Push to something.
Yes.
What do you feel like makes your practice strong?
So for me, what I feel makes my practice strong is my intent. Once I decide something, it has been decided. And I feel for me that brings a lot of really clear-cut feelings to my practice, because once I've decided that I want to do something, there is no wavering back and forth. Like, my intent is there, and I push all of my power into that intent. And I think that's a really big part of my practice for me. What about you?
Similar. Pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But for me, I see it as my power. You know, I do not speak out often, but when I do, it's something that I'm very fiery and passionate about. I'm very much an air spirit, so I'm very floaty. I'm very go with the wind. Like, it takes a lot for me to get worked up about something, but when I feel it and I'm ready to do it, like, there is nothing that can come in my path. Yeah. And so I think that power and that intention, like you said, behind it is what makes my practice strong.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I think that's important. Alyssa.
Yes.
Why do you want to do this? This right here.
This. Like I said earlier, the hermit is my comfort zone, and I'm at a place that I'm trying to push myself out of those limits. Again, I think community is important, and it's something that's important to me in my life, but in my practice, it's something that I very much have removed myself from. I think it's natural for witches to kind of build up a place of healthy fear around them when it comes to sharing what you do and sharing what your practice is. But the time is nigh. It is time to come out and to say what we do, and to not be so afraid of not just judgment, because it's not just that.
No.
It's something to me that it's so personal and so deep that it's almost like my precious, and I want to keep it to myself.
Right.
You know? But we don't continue to empower each other and teach each other new things, and lift each other up to a place that we feel comfortable with breaking out of those barriers, until we start speaking up and saying, you know, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I practice. Yeah. And so I think that we're in the time and the place right now to do that. I think we have been in that place. But it's becoming increasingly more important for us to not just step back and watch, you know?
Yes. Yeah, like, really jump in, get our hands dirty, and get in it.
Do the work.
Do the work. I'm going to get that tattooed on my fucking face. Do the work.
Do the work.
So for me, I had talked to Alyssa about this recently. For me, because I have been doing so much shadow work in probably the last 5 or 6 months, I've really actually figured out that probably the last at least 6 years of my life, I've been super cut off from, like, everyone and everything. I've kind of just walled myself out and really focused on my work and my career, and let my spirituality fall to the wayside, let my friendships fall to the wayside, and was just Tori who goes to work every day and tries to get a promotion and tries to get to that next step in her career. But 6 years later, 6 months ago, all of a sudden I realized who the fuck am I? Like, what has happened? Like, I felt so disconnected from my practice. I felt so disconnected from my friendships that Alyssa and I have been friends for a long time, and like I said, we didn't talk about our practice, and it was like I wasn't doing the fucking work. I was just getting up in the morning and going to work, and then coming home and going to bed, and that was my life. And I wanted to get reconnected. So when I started doing the shadow work, I started really realizing that a big reason why I had this imposter syndrome is because I had stopped doing the work, and I was not living the way I wanted to live. I was putting all of my attention on my career and not enough attention on my relationships and my spirituality. So for me, really wanted to do this to reconnect with my practice, but also to reconnect with you and with everyone else who's out there. Like really starting to bring that air and that fresh air and that power back into my own life, and share that with other people and show other people. And for me, it's been great so far. I feel like it's really getting me to the next place that I need to be. So excited everyone else is here along for the ride. Jumbo.
And really, skill. No, and really, I mean, how can you ever expect to grow outside of your practice if you're not willing to open up those floodgates in that Pandora's box, you
Exactly.
know, and to say, here I am, what can I learn?
Yeah,
you know?
and it's a scary place to be. It's a scary place to be like, hi, this is who I am. This is what I do in my practice. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Because it's inviting judgment. It's inviting second guessing from other people. It's inviting advice from other people. And that may not be something that you want. It may be something that you do want. You don't know until you get it, but it's scary to open that door.
Also, so valuable.
Valuable and validating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you need that feedback from other people. You need to start that conversation, because to me, it feels like I'm never going to get what I need out of my personal life if I'm not having an open discussion with others about what I'm doing, what my spirituality is, what my practice is. What is your practice? What is your practice?
What is your practice?
What is it? Because it just helps build your own.
Yeah,
and it helps
it
get
does,
you
yeah.
excited again.
And again, make you question everything.
Exactly.
Which is where, you know, those big moments of growth come from.
Yeah.
So you're not just running in the hamster wheel feeling like you're doing the same thing, like you were saying, just like you can get stuck into years and years and years of just repetition and not even realize it until all of a sudden you're like, whoa. Where did everything go?
Right.
Yeah.
You wake up one day and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And this has been a really great way to kind of actually sit down with a piece of paper and be like, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to go.
And even just in, you know, the few months that we've been talking about this and starting to hash things out, it's like it really changes your perspective and makes you think outside of yourself, which is entirely everything of what we do, you know?
Yeah.
I think that solitary practitioner doesn't necessarily mean like you're only involved with yourself.
Right.
Witchcraft inherently is shifting energy, and if you could think that that would only impact you, there's no way.
There isn't.
There's no
there
way.
Isn't.
So,
what do we want to do with these lovely people and with this project that we're embarking upon?
So big things for me. A place to commune about experiences. So, what are things that, you know, you've experienced? What are things that you practice? Having open conversations, feeling like it's a place that you can have a conversation about what you do without there being judgment, without there being, this is how to practice. We're not trying to tell anybody how to practice.
No.
Absolutely not.
That's opposite.
Because that's not what we're about.
No.
You know?
No. For me, I want to create a space where people feel comfortable to have an open discussion about what their practice is, what their beliefs are, without fear of judgment, and create a place where people can learn. Alyssa and I are the last people to tell you that we know exactly what we're doing, but what we want to do is share what we are doing with you, and get your opinion, get your thoughts. What are you doing? Do you like what we're doing? Do you want to adopt what we're doing? And creating this open forum for others so that everyone has the ability to feel like they're more plugged in to their practice and their spirituality and their people, because we are your people, right? Do you have anything else that you want to add?
moving out of textbook knowledge.
Yes.
I am a bookworm, like to the core.
Same.
And I very much know that there's been many times throughout my practice that it's like I can get so caught up in,
This is what
I
this
want to
book
learn
says.
everything. I want to read everything. Like, I want to know, like, I have this idea that I want to try, but I have to research it first.
Yes.
And it's like, you don't always have to research it. You're being called and drawn to do something. If you have a thought and you do not physically put some form of action behind it within 30 seconds, you have lost it.
Yes.
So even if it comes to just, okay, I feel inspired that I need to do this, that, or the other, whatever it may be, even writing down, what that intention is, what that little fire that comes up in your belly is. We have to not be, maybe I'm probably projecting here, but we have to not be afraid to just like jump in and again, do the work,
Yes.
do the thing instead of being like, oh, well, I don't know enough. We do know enough. You know, if this is something that you're drawn to and you're called to,
then you know enough to know that.
Yeah.
So get
and
in
your
it.
intent and your power is so much of what you do. So trust that. And for me, that's been one of the hardest things in my practice to overcome, is not trusting myself enough and trusting my power enough. And once I was able to, I'm not fully past that by any means. I think that that's constant work that has to be done.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But once I was able to accept, like, you do know enough, you are valuable enough. Like,
you are
that
enough.
self-worth piece is so important,
Yeah.
because that's what drives the power and the intention behind your craft and what you do.
And I think that's why shadow work is so important too, because like that's never done. Like, the work is never done. We're all always going to be working on that part of ourselves and learning that part of ourselves. But the work isn't valuable if you're not doing it. And like, to your point, when it comes to like thinking that you don't know enough to get started, if you wait until you know enough, you're
You will be
never
waiting forever.
You're gonna wait forever.
Yeah.
You're never gonna know enough. You're never gonna feel like you're worth it enough. You're never gonna feel like you've done enough research. Now,
Or you're ready.
right?
Or you have enough things. You don't need things. Yeah.
Just start doing the work. Start small if you feel like that. If it is a really big project that you could hurt yourself if you don't know enough, start small.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to jump in head first, but you have to jump in. Like, you have to start doing it, because if you don't, you'll never start.
Not just dip a toe.
Right.
Because then it's too cold and you won't.
And then I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done. Speaking of fire.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around witch fire
Versus
witch blood?
Yes.
So we should So we should probably start off by explaining what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Witch fire versus witch blood. So there are different schools of thought. Some people think that some people are inherently and naturally born with hereditary witch blood.
yes.
Okay, so this is something that's been passed on generationally, and either you're born to it or you're not born to it. You can still learn how to do it, but you are more powerful, or whatever the belief is around that system.
Totally thought you said born.
Bort. I probably did.
Bort. So in this example, it would be like, my great grandma was a witch, and she had prophetic dreams, and so I'm a witch as well.
Where does your great grandma hail from? Is what I want to know.
Mississippi.
Or the other side of that is witch fire.
Right.
So it's something that it's not like, I guess not that you're born with, but that you feel within yourself.
It's a spark.
Yes,
It's
spark.
a spark.
Calling, if you will, to get into this world, this realm of working with energies
and spirits
Yes.
and all of the wonderful things that we work with. So for you, what school of thought?
witch fire.
Witch fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah, witch fire. I think when we start talking about witch blood, we start dabbling too much in, I'm better at this than you are because of this reason. For me, none of my family has ever been a witch, you know.
I feel like it's not to say, though, that if you have practicing family that has passed these traditions along for years and years, that's
like,
absolutely
bring that
awesome.
into your
That's
practice.
beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bring that shit in.
But I don't think that you have to be born under some sort of
Hierarchy or...
Yes.
No, I agree with that 100%. And, like, to that point, because ancestor work, I didn't talk about this earlier. Ancestral work is a big part of my practice as well. That's something that I've always felt called to do. For me, I try to bring in my ancestors into my work. Now, like I said before, none of them have ever been practicing. You know, my family came straight from Ireland, Scotland, settled in rural Mississippi, and never fucking left. Rural. See? That's Mississippi. It's coming out. But that's like, they went there,
Yeah.
and they stayed 4 generations. They were all Southern Baptists. So none of them, at least for like the last 6 generations, has been a practicing witch. But
that you knew of.
That I know of.
Yeah.
Right. But I have brought what they did into my practice, right? Because ancestral work is a big deal for me.
I also feel like sometimes with taking the time when it comes to working with ancestors, if you come from a very like religious family, have you ever experienced where you're like, none of them are going to be down with this. They're not going to want to do this with me. But then they do,
and they're like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah. Tell me more.
Tell me more. Tell me more. What do you want my help with?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's fascinating. That's cool.
I know. I agree.
You experience that, and you're like, oh, okay.
All of a sudden, they crossed over, and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But 100% in the witch fire school of thought.
Yeah.
I think if this is a world you're drawn to, then you have that witch fire, you have that spark. And I think when we start talking too much about witch blood, then people start getting that imposter syndrome of, well, I don't have this inside me that I know of, so I'm probably not being called to do this, so this calling that I'm feeling is not real. And then they kind of are not really listening to themselves, which is a scary place to be.
That self-doubt again.
Yes.
There's so many places to doubt yourself, you know?
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, again, your power is your practice.
It is your practice.
Your power is there regardless of what blood is running through your veins.
Correct. Yes.
I very much believe that.
I do too.
I will stand on that.
I will stand
on that soapbox.
So let's talk about the name of this project that we're working on. So we've named this YouTube channel Faces of the Faceless. Okay. What does that mean to you?
To me, it means, again, coming from a place of being very solitary, very protected, there's a lot of people out there, I know, because I am one of them, that have built up kind of these walls, or even they're more open with their practice than I am, but they don't have a place or a platform to put themselves and their work out there. So it feels like there's so many faceless among us that don't have that place to come to commune. And so I think it's important for us to put a face to those people, and to be able to come together and work together in ways where we're sharing, in ways that we are becoming more open, challenging ourselves to push ourselves outside of that spectrum of I'm just in my own bubble and in my own world, and you know, I'm content with staying there. Some people may be content with that. I know I was content with that for many years.
Many years.
So there should be an option, though. There should be a place to come to say, you know what? Here I am. Let's lay it out on the table and let's sort through it and
talk about it.
Yes.
Exactly. And I mean, for me, I was so comfortable in my own shell that, you know, I was a witch. I picked up on the fact, okay, Alyssa's doing some shit. She's not really talking to me about it. But it was to the point where I was even scared to ask you about it. Because it was almost like, I'm scared to talk about my practice. She's probably scared to talk about her practice. So I guess, like, I just am worried that I don't want to, like, ask her about it or try and talk to her
Intrude.
about it. Right, right. And I think, you know, a lot of people have this opinion that if you talk about your work, you're drawing power away from it. And I think that's why people don't do it. I think people don't talk about what their practices are, what their rituals are, because they're worried if they talk about it too much, then that no longer has power. But to me, it gives it more power because it puts more people behind it. It puts Oh, do you like that?
Yeah. I just had a thought.
Tell me your thought.
Well, it's funny because I'm very superstitious at times.
Yes.
I've been
Yeah.
raised on a lot of superstitions.
Right.
And it's like, there are times that there's something that I'm doing that I'm working on that feels so, like, deeply, deeply personal. And I'm like, I shut
Yes.
it off so hard.
Yes.
And I've never really thought about it that way, of
Mhm.
you're building up more intention in other people's intentions
Right.
that are excited.
Exactly.
You just blew my mind a little bit.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I
to blow your mind.
really like that thought.
Thanks.
Hmm.
My brain sometimes works really well.
But did I interrupt you?
No.
Okay. I feel like I did. Sometimes I get really excited,
It's okay.
and it's
This
like
is
you
a
can
discussion.
physically
This is
see it.
collaborative. It's collaborative.
You could physically see my excitement. I'm just like, oh my god, I have to say something right now. But another thing that we've been discussing a lot too is, I think sometimes the fear of sharing your practice comes from, there's so many people and places and things and books and blogs out there trying to tell you that the way that you practice is wrong
It's
because
wrong.
it does not fit into their scope of practice.
Yes, and this actually dovetails really nicely with the name of this episode,
Yeah.
which is Whatever Happened to Do What Thou Wilt. Because what happened to that?
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people out there who believe in their practice so much that they tear other people's practices down.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not what we're about,
Mm-mm.
right? I practice differently than Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff that we do happens to be similar. Some of it's not at all. But just because she does it differently doesn't mean she does it not as well.
Wrong.
Yeah, or wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like witchcraft used to have this, and we talked about this before, there was power in what we were doing,
Mhm.
right? But when people second guess you, it feels like they're taking your power away. Witchcraft is all about being sovereign,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, right? It's about being sovereign. It's about believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do that, if you're so worried that this person does it this way, and I know if I tell them I do it this way, they're going to second guess me and tell me I'm doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm. The reason I chose this path, and I think the reason that a lot of people choose this path, is full autonomy.
Full autonomy.
Over your beliefs, your values, your ethics, the way that you live your life, and what you put out there. And to take away somebody else's autonomy and tell them that the choice that you made to practice the way that you do does not align with what I do, therefore
Your way is
it
wrong.
can't be right,
Right.
is so, I feel, against the whole reason we're
yes.
here,
Right.
you know?
No, I 100% agree. And in this project, Alyssa and I want to create a place for everyone to have that discussion, because nobody's wrong. If you are a light worker and believe that's the only way to be, and you want to talk about that, we can talk to you about being a light worker.
Mhm.
I'm not a light worker. That's not the way I believe.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean your way is wrong.
Yeah.
It just means that that's not my calling. That's not what I'm here to do. That doesn't take away from you
Or your power.
or your power.
And I think the more that we have people doing very different things, the better.
The better.
The stronger it makes our whole community.
I completely agree.
So it's not, there's no rule book to witchcraft.
There isn't.
There isn't.
I mean, there's a
And
lot of books about witchcraft.
There are.
They have rules in them.
That is, I mean, that's the whole point to
Exactly.
me, is to be able to choose who you are and what you put out there.
Yes, and not have to worry about someone else taking your power away from you.
Yeah.
Here, what we want to do is lift you up. We want to have a discussion. We want to talk about what you do. We want to talk about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And, our hope is that we're able to bring more people in, and really spread that message of you're not alone. Even if you're solitary,
Mhm.
you're not alone. There's a greater force behind you, and we want to be a part of it with you.
And we
But
want to learn things too. Teach
yes,
us things.
Teach us things. We want to learn so many things. So, final thoughts? Anything else that you want to say that we have not already said? Episode 1.
Episode 1. Not really that I can think of right now. to be honest.
Not really.
But I am very excited to start to work on this
I am too.
with you and to kind of get to know other people better, you know, and to not be so afraid of putting my practice and the things that I believe out there, and to get more ideas and inspiration and, you know, really be able to push myself and grow.
Yes, and for me, that's exactly what I want to get out of it as well. I want to grow as a person. I want to grow as a community. I want to learn more. I want to learn more with you. I want to learn more with you. I want to, you know, I want to open myself up to those experiences, because I think it's only going to help make me better.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully I can bring something to everyone else that's out there. So we're super excited to do this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Been waiting all day to say that.
Skull.
Skull.